White sugar is really bad. It is bleached and processed. So this is one of the biggest misconceptions I come across when I am promoting and educating on sugar, especially white sugar. And today we are going to get rid of the fear that you have around white sugar. We're going to go through every step in the processing of the sugar so you can see it's not the boogeyman that people have made it out to be. I see a lot of poorly educated people spreading misinformation, and it's time to stop that. People speak about purity, but then they will eat foods that are far less pure than refined sugar, like wine, for instance, coffee, chocolate, even tofu, protein powders, both plant-based and not. There's a whole lot of things that people are ingesting, but they're just so incredibly fearful of the white sugar for no good reason. Remember, 99% of you are eating a lot of processed food. What matters is the end result, not the process it goes through to get to that result. Remember that. The end result in white sugar is 99.9% pure. That's not my stats. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's go to stage 1 of sugar refining. So step 1, the sugarcane or the sugar beet is picked. It is then washed of soil and debris, and then it's put through a juicer, basically like you would do at home. It's pressed and the juice is extracted. The next stage is juice clarification or purification, and this is a stage where most of the food grade aids are used in the refining of the sugar. So this raw juice contains impurities that need to be removed, like proteins, fibers, organic acids, and pigments that need to be removed from the juice. So during this stage, the juice is heated with slaked lime or calcium hydroxide, which just comes from limestone. And I think this stage is where a lot of people, get caught up on. They're like, whoa, that's a chemical. It must be bad. So what you need to understand about calcium hydroxide is it's been used for over 3,000 years in food production, especially in tortillas. The ancient Mexicans actually used to use calcium hydroxide in the processing of the tortillas, and there's actually some left over, and they believe it improves digestibility of the tortillas, and that's been done for thousands of years. It's even added to foods today. Calcium hydroxide is still used in your corn chips, tamales, to fortify some cereals, snacks, fruit juices. And the thing that is important here is that, yes, it is used in the refining of the sugar, but there's absolutely nothing left in the final product. So you can see there, it's just a processing aid. It doesn't end up in the final white sugar. This is an important distinction to make. And even then, it's still food grade, food safe. It's been eaten for thousands of years. This calcium hydroxide, it reacts with the impurities, it binds them up, and then it's filtered out completely. In some refineries, like in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they use sulfur dioxide gas. This is not the norm in the global market, okay? And it's a process called sulfonation. And it sounds scary, but it's actually the same compound used safely for centuries in like wine, for instance, dried fruits, but you don't really want to be ingesting that. And you're not ingesting that when you're buying white sugar in the Western world. These are called plantation white or mill white. And they are basically locally available sugar. People buy them from the mill. So it's different from the white sugar that you're getting in the Western world. So that's kind of more of a local sugar that's available in, India, Pakistan, these sort of countries where they're actually not making it as pure as it really should be. It has to go through more stages. So this sugar looks white, but it's not as pure or shelf stable as the fully refined white sugar. What a lot of the modern sugar refineries, the sugar companies that you're buying, that you're getting the sugar from, they use instead of this sulfonation is they use phosphonation. Okay, so I know, again, it sounds scary, but it is not. It's in soda. People are drinking it literally in Coke and soda. All right, and this is, again, it's not in the final product anyway. I'll have to keep saying that. But this process of phosphonation, they use phosphoric acid. Again, it's the same food grade acid used in many soft drinks. It's added into the juice along with the lime, calcium hydroxide. So these two react, and then the particles act like magnets, and they basically attract and lift out any remaining color compounds and fine plant material. So another non-scary additive that they're using in the processing of the sugar that is not in the end result is carbon dioxide, which is what you breathe out. So not too scary, right? So it is bubbled through the mix and it helps the solids settle faster. So it's a precipitation reaction that clarifies the juice produced by removing suspended solids. So you can see that is not very scary. Isn't it amazing what some education can do to clear up misunderstanding and the misinformation? So definitely please spread this around because this is not bad. On to the next stage, the purification, the filtering, and this is where the bone char can come in sometimes. So even though the syrup is sweet and clean, it still carries some natural color compounds, kind of like tea or apple juice. So to polish it further, it's passed through filters made of activated carbon or bone char. This is still used in some countries, in some companies, but it is being phased out. We'll talk about that soon, but it's passed through these filters. So I think this is one of the stages people think is bleaching, but it is not bleaching, okay? Think of activated carbon like a magnet for color, okay? It absorbs pigments, odor, molecules, traces of minerals. It is pulling a lot of that in. It's absorbing it like a sponge. It's the same carbon used in water filters and air purifiers. These don't stay in the sugar. They simply hold onto impurities and they get replaced regularly, these filters. And by the end of this process, you're left with a completely clear golden syrup that's almost pure sucrose. Again, this is not in the final product. You do not have animal bones in the final product. And over 50% of the sugar available, say in the USA, is beet sugar. Okay, and they never use bone char at all. Over 50% of the white sugar available, bone char is never used. It's only generally used in the sugarcane processing, and it is being phased out, like I said. But if you're concerned about that, buy organic white sugar. Go for the beet sugar, obviously. You just do the best you can. It's better that you have the sugar than not have the sugar, and you're not eating animal bones in the process. But yeah, I understand if you want to avoid that, and it is easier to still do that. Okay, just do a little bit of research and you will be fine. So the evaporation stage, this is where the water is removed from the juice. So it's like thickening up a syrup on the stove, right? You're removing that juice, you're removing the liquid, and the syrup is becoming thicker. I've done this with my human honey or when I'm making the jam from the frozen berries. I'm not sure if you've seen that recipe, but this is the same kind of thing. You've got to remove that water. So the juice goes through these evaporators and it is actually kept at a controlled temp, which I think is really awesome because it's vacuum sealed and the boiling point is kept at a lower point than, say, these open vats that you see in these other countries that are producing, coconut sugar, maybe panela, jaggery, those sort of things that are just out of control boiling. And they can get to quite high temperatures when that water has boiled off and it's just the sugar syrup, continuing to boil. This doesn't happen in these vacuum sealed containers, which definitely makes a purer, healthier product. So the water evaporates off and it leaves a syrup that is about 60 to 65% sugar. So the next stage is crystallization and seeding, which is pretty cool because they add tiny seed crystals of sugar to that syrup. Okay, and giving the dissolved sucrose basically something to grab onto, like a template to grab onto. And then it's a bit like making rock candy at home. This is something that I really want to do actually, is make rock candy or actually make a big sucrose crystal. And I'm going to do that. Just wait for it when I get my act together. But this is basically what's happening with these tiny seed crystals. So as these sun crystals grow, the sugar thickens. So it's basically a mix of sugar crystals floating in molasses at this point. Okay, so the next stage is centrifugation, and this is about spinning off the sugar crystals and separating it from the molasses. So this thick sugar mixture goes into the centrifuge and it spins, and the heavy sugar crystals are flung to the sides while the sticky molasses impurity drains away. Okay, and that molasses can be pretty impure stuff, really. Depends where it comes from, of course. There's varying degrees of darkness and all of that. But even in California, I believe they have a Prop 65 warning on it because of the level of acrylamides it has in it. So something to think about. If you think molasses is great, it's really not. White sugar or clear sugar, the sun crystals, is far superior for your health. It's just, you're getting pure energy right there without all this dark impurity, overcooked, sometimes burnt, oxidized plant matter. So what's left behind here is these clean, sparkling sugar crystals. And then that brings us onto the drying and the cooling of the sugar crystals. So the crystals still hold like a touch of moisture. So they're dried with hot air. They're given like a sugar sauna, if you like. And after that, they're cooled so they don't clump together. So you don't have any of this clumping agent, anti-clumping agent in the sugar or anything like that. They're pure sugar crystals. So at this drying and cooling stage, the sun crystals are like 99.9% pure sucrose. You really just can't get a purer food ingredient on the planet. It's one of the, if not the most pure food ingredient on the actual planet. So at this stage, no bacteria can grow in it. That's why sugar basically never goes off. Isn't that amazing? Have you thought about that? That sugar never goes off? Just another incredible benefit of sugar that you can just have it sitting around forever. Although the ants will get into it and they will get into it. Oh, I was thinking actually of hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are commonly fed sugar water, like people do it all the time on YouTube, because a lot of these hummingbirds, the habitat has been knocked down. They don't have access to the sugar sources, the flowers that they need as much, and they will help supplement their diet. People will supplement their diet with this sugar water. The hummingbirds still have, nectar from plants, but they come and supplement with white sugar, and it's actually shown that their populations increase. They get healthier. There's no disease or anything like that observed from them having white sugar. And I think that's pretty interesting, right? They're actually having more babies. The community's expanding. They're getting healthier because they're getting more energy that they couldn't get before with this supplementing of the white sugar. So final stage is packaging and storage. Finally the crystals are screened for size. You got fine, you got the coarse, you got caster, and then they're packed and sealed. They're ready for you to take them off the shelf and eat. So hopefully that takes away any fear you have about the white sugar. The white sugar is the best sugar by far that you can buy. And what type of sugar should you buy? Like I said before, if you want to avoid the bone char, you can research and see whether it's come from beet sugar. Then it naturally doesn't have any bone char used in the filtration process. When it comes to sugar cane, you get organic sugar cane. They don't use bone char. Otherwise, just get any old white sugar. It's okay. Organic is always best for the environment if you can get it, but just get whichever one you can, because it's going to help you reduce the amount of fat in your diet and feel better and feel more energetic and hydrate you, right? Get the plump cells. So your skin is plump, your body is hydrated, your mind is more hydrated. There's so many benefits that I'm going to let you know about over, the coming months. So stay tuned for that. And definitely check out or apply for the 12-month course. We're starting a new round in 2026. Love to have you in there. And there's a lot of information that's going to be life-changing, and many recipe demonstrations, live streams with me. It's going to be amazing. So you can apply at this stage of 2026. And check out my books as well. If you want to start a fruit-based diet, these books are the place to start. Raw Till 4, Go Fruit Yourself. They're definitely the place to start you on your fruit-based journey. So to end this, the one thing I really want to say is, just because something is using some processing aids at a food grade that we went through that are not scary at all, it doesn't mean they're going to be in the final product. And when it comes to white sugar, that's exactly true. You're getting pure sucrose crystals. It's kind of like shining up a muddy crystal. You're shining up that muddy crystal to expose the crystal. Okay, and it is not synthetic. It is a natural crystal. It is natural from nature. It is identical to the fruit, to the sugar in fruit. It is just extracted. Okay, it's extracted. It is not made by humans. It's made via photosynthesis in the plant. The plant makes it with carbon dioxide, water, and sunshine, which is pretty beautiful, right? Those three elements are so important to life. It's pretty amazing, right? Carbon dioxide, water, sunshine creates sucrose. Sucrose is the clear table sugar. We should start calling it clear, because people think because it's white, it seems to be white, but that is just the way the light hits the different angles on the sugar crystals. Just like snowflakes, think about it. Snow looks white when you're looking at it, right? On the ground, there's like snow, it's white everywhere. It's not actually white, it's clear. Just like sucrose crystals. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just so cool? I really love learning about sugar because I've been lied to for so long, including you, right? We've all been lied to so long about sugar, and the fat's been pushed so hard that we really need to flip the script here. We need to bring the truth back to sugar, and it's going to help a lot of people's health because they can start increasing the sugar and decreasing that fat. Get that fat out. The fat is destroying people's health. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. There's nothing left in the final product, 99.9% pure. That is what you're consuming. You don't have to worry. It's not bleached. It's transparent. Processed does not equal bad. Refining, it is actually getting better. This is actually making the product better, the food ingredient better. With a lot of these ultra processed foods, what's ending up in the end result? It's like full of chemicals and all sorts of rubbish. People are still happy eating their protein bars, but sugar, even though it's the purest food ingredient on the planet, that's so scary. Anyway, hopefully this video helped. All right, don't forget to go through yourself. Leave a comment down below. I'll see you next video.